Hello! In this video I want to show you how to start using TypeScript in React application and what benefits it can provide compared to JavaScript. One of the simplest ways to start is using create React app template, and it will create a boilerplate project with everything set up and ready to use. We're just gonna need to execute this example command. Change the application name if you need. I'm gonna leave it as my app. Now when the project setup is finished, let's navigate to the applications folder and open the project in the editor. The project has the same structure as a normal one, but instead of JS-config file, you have TS-config file, with some compiler options required to compile the project correctly. And you can see here TSX extension, which you're gonna need to use for components with React markup. It's like JSX in React version. If you don't need React, you can write TypeScript code in files with TS extension as the service worker file, for example. Now let's create a new file and name it as counter.tsx. I'm going to use this counter example to demonstrate main TypeScript functionality. Export const counter, and to make it functional component we need to specify type of the component as React functional component, and to make it less wordy you can replace it with shorter version as React FC. Let's implement components body, and you can see that TypeScript is already providing some feedback regarding the function, stating that it needs to return something. Let's return empty div block for now. We have a basic component, but it's not doing much for now. Let's make it more dynamic and add some props. You define props in angle brackets as an object. We now have title property defined as a string type. Let's try to add our component into the application. Go to the app TSX, remove part of the code that we don't need, and import our counter component. We see quite an informative message stating that we are missing title property with string type. If we pass a number, for example, we're gonna have another error message. So this is TypeScript's type checking in place. You can omit curly braces for string type prop. Now let's go back to the counter component. We defined props in an angle brackets as an object, but we can specify props as an interface, which is more usual and convenient way, especially when you have a lot of props. You can specify an interface with different field types. It can be string, number, function, another object, or an array. If we replace our props with the defined interface and go back to the app file, we can see that TypeScript is complaining about missing props, and you can see what types it expects. To use props in the component, we need to pass them in the function as an argument, and now we have access to all of them using props object, and code completion provides easy access to them. To simplify our component, we can destructure props object, which will allow us access properties directly. And also we can remove React FC type here, since our component is functional by definition, and we don't need implicit functionality that React FC type provides. Looks good. Now I don't really want to expose count property of our component outside, so let's store it internally using useState hooks and leave only the title as an interface property. You can see that count type is inferred from the initial value of the useState hook, but we can specify it directly pretty much the same way as we did it with components props. You need to define the type in angle brackets. Multiple types are specified by separating them using a pipe symbol. You also can define a custom type. Let's create count type with count field as number and details as string. This way count in our state would expect an object with defined properties, and TypeScript will validate the correctness of provided values. But for simplicity, let's use 0 as an initial value for the count. Now let's display the count in our component and add a button to increase its value when we press the button. For it, we need to specify onClick function, and TypeScript can help us here by providing its definition with a description of the arguments it expects. Here we can see that it has a mouse event as an argument, and if we need it, we can have access to it and see all the properties in the code completion block. But for our use case, it's not necessary, and we will just increase the count's value by 1 on button click. Let's duplicate the button for minus operation, and our component is ready. Looks clean and simple. Now let's try it in action. Open the terminal and run the application with yarn start command. It will open up the application in the browser window. Our counter works as expected. That's all for the basic TypeScript usage with React I wanted to show in this video, but TypeScript has a lot more features to offer, and I'll try to show them in the next videos. Thank you for watching, and see you later.